What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and today I have a very special episode for you guys. I know I say that way too often, and I know I've been criticized for saying it way too often, but when I say I have a special episode for you guys, I really and truly mean it. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can tell that I have multiple guests on the show today. I'm usually lucky enough to get one, but today I have three special guests on the show today. They are the hosts of the Gone Bridge podcast, and I am so glad to have them on. They're a Red Sox-based podcast. They talk all things Red Sox and, also talk some MLB stuff too. They're from the University of New Hampshire, and I'll throw it right off to them, straight out of the gate. I'll let them introduce themselves. How you boys doing today?
Good. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Yeah, we're just excited to talk some baseball, talk some sports. Should be a good time. And my name's Andrew, by the way.
Yeah, that's Andrew. My name's Steve Brady. I produce the Gone Bridge podcast, obviously one of the three hosts, and I'm really excited to be on the Down to the Wire podcast. It's going to be a good episode.
What's up, guys? My name's Alex. I am the third wing on the Gone Bridge podcast. Good to have you. Good to have us on, Brian. Thanks so much.
I'm so glad to have you guys on. I try to collaborate with anybody I can on the show. I've had multiple athletes on, including basketball players such as Michael Green III, who is going to be transferring to Robert Morris next year from Bryant. Sadly, I've also had Adam Alita on, who is going to be coming to Bryant next year and hopefully going to be one of the stars on our team. I've also interviewed shot put throwers as well as TikTok influencers, different guys who have insights into their sport. And obviously I'm talking some baseball today, frankly my favorite sport on planet Earth, as well as assume it is for you guys as well. But
yeah, of course,
yeah,
absolutely,
it's America's pastime.
There we go, absolutely. No, I frankly I'm just glad to have some fellow podcasters on who can talk about the sport at length like I can. Before we really get into it, if there's anything that you guys really want to introduce yourselves about, I know you guys just did your names and other things like that. If there's any, kind of like little special things that you guys want to say about each other, you can go ahead and do that.
Well, I mean, all I would say is, like you said, we are, live and die by the Red Sox. We love the MLB. And as far as like our podcast goes, you can find us literally anywhere where you can find podcasts, and our handles on social media is just Gone Bridge. So if you enjoy us during this interview, which I hope you do, that's where you can find us later.
So that sounds good to me. Obviously for you guys, that's that'll be their social media shout out. Kind of getting into it though, before we do talk some baseball, I found you guys, I think how a lot of people did, I found you guys through listening to the Section 10 podcast. Anyone who doesn't know who the Section 10 podcast is, it's a Barstool Red Sox podcast that is hosted by Jerk Robis and, a bunch of other guys over there. And I was able to really get into that. And, I ended up hearing these guys, and I looked them up on Instagram at the time. And I think you guys only had like 50 or so followers at the time. And I was like, man, Jared is just a diehard. He's going out there. He's going obscure. He's getting anybody out there. And I was like, you know what? All the respect to Jared, all the respect to that. But, before we get into, that kind of a whole story, how did you guys, come together and want to start this podcast? Like when did this idea, form into your guys' mind?
Yeah. So we started this podcast last November, right after the World Series.
Best time to start a baseball podcast.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Right when the season
week
ends,
after the World Series,
right when
there's nothing to talk about, especially for the Red Sox. They were kicked out 2 months before, and we had nothing to work with.
Oh yeah.
But we kind of came together. So 2 years ago, me and Steve rushed the same fraternity in the fall semester, and we kind of got to know each other that way. Kind of, got to know each other, and we started talking baseball all the time. And then in the spring semester, Andrew joined. He started pledging our fraternity, and we kind of getting to know him. We found out he was also a massive baseball fan. And we would always end up like anytime the three of us were together, we'd end up like standing in a corner, just like yelling at each other about baseball for 20 minutes. So me and Steve had the idea. It came to me because he knew that Andrew had been working with the company that we're partnered with. It's called Wild Chat Sports. It's run by this guy named Kevin up at UNH. And Andrew had worked with him throughout the year. So Steve came to me with the idea to pitch to Andrew that we would get one episode. And we were hoping that we could just kind of sneak in for one episode, take the stuff that we talk about and just throw it in, talk for an hour, and then be out. And so we went to Andrew went to Kevin, and Kevin came back to us and suggested that if we wanted to, we could start our own podcast. So we kind of did. We started it up. Andrew knew the most out of us and still probably does about all this podcasting stuff. So our roles kind of fell together. He's our host. Steve works a lot with the editing and producing just because that's what he's good at. And then I'm just here. So, however months we are later, 7 months later, about 35 episodes deep, we're loving it. And it's been quite the ride. And, we're not stopping now.
Notice that Alex has a very self-deprecating attitude about himself with this podcast.
I'm just a realist. Andrew, he does a lot of the legwork with the hosting. Steve does a lot of the producing. And then after that, I mean, once you get those two things nailed down, there isn't a ton left to do. So,
Austin, I will say you are the only one with a segment named after yourself. So I don't know what.
That is fair. I put a lot of I put a lot of work into my stuff, but I suppose it contributes to the whole deal.
No, I would say just to go off.
Clausen, I'm not on the show, but I appreciate you, Clausen.
Hold on. I mean, I think Clausen doesn't give himself enough credit. We all have our roles, and I think that's why it works so well, because of these selfless and just humble, I guess, attitudes that we all have. Everybody, I would say, is super selfless in terms of what they're willing to give to the podcast, and without any single one of us three, it just wouldn't work as well as it does. So I think everybody deserves an equal amount of credit.
Except when I had to leave Absolutely. Midway through an episode and you guys carried it.
Yeah. That was just one.
That was just once.
I like how you guys kind of, how the idea for you guys starting it kind of was based around, just the everyday conversations that you guys had with each other. It's kind of funny. I was at dinner with some of my friends last night, and we were having, kind of a conversation like that. My friend Pat and my other friend Adam, they were kind of arguing at length of did the Red Sox do right in the Andrew Benintendi deal. That's a topic we'll talk about later on in the show, but it just that just reminded me of that conversation last night, because they were just at each other's throats over this thing. It was just he has a better average this year, and my other friends going, but he was hurt, and there was all the reason to trade him, and it just reminds me of that so much. And I'm glad that you guys were able to kind of take that that kind of a conversation and bring it into the podcasting world. I think it's really beneficial. Now, obviously, how I previously mentioned that I discovered you guys through the Section 10 podcast. I actually kind of learned through Rob Shelley of the Pesky Pole podcast and some other guys how this all came about. But I listened to you guys. You sounded really good on the show. Went to go check you guys out. Saw you guys had a very small following at the time. It has grown exponentially ever since, which is awesome to see for you guys. And I was just surprised at it, because I was like, wow, these guys out of nowhere got in with this guy, and I was like, how did this necessarily happen? So if you guys want to explain how this kind of went down, I'll let you guys take it away.
Yeah. So first of all, appreciate that. Means a lot. And I'll start this out by saying that we are so appreciative of everybody who supports us, because it's still crazy to us that people take time out of their day, even a minute or two. In fact, I think Steve, I can't remember which one of you said it, but it was our first episode after we recorded. You were like, listen, if 5 people listen to us, even that's a win. That's a win. That was our goal. And that's been our goal, is that even if we have just one person listening to us, it's cool to us that, someone wants to be involved with us. So first of all, yes, we really appreciate everybody. But kind of getting more into that, it was a little bit of luck. We had been doing this for about 6 or 7 episodes. Weren't getting many listens. And then we were like, hey, let's start some social media. Let's start trying to, promote the show. So we got an Instagram going, got a Twitter going. And then Steve had the idea of, throwing a link to our show on the Red Sox Reddit page, which we were like, we're probably just going to get hate for trying to promote ourselves. And, it's probably not going to go over well, because Reddit's really not the nicest of places. I'm about to say it's Reddit. So I'm about to say,
Prayers up
Especially
to you.
Red Sox Reddit. Red
Yeah,
Sox Reddit is
It's
brutal.
It's brutal. So like we reached out to that like admin of the page, and he was like, yeah, sure, go for it. So we just threw something up, and we're like, you know what, maybe we get a couple more listeners, whatever. So it was late. It was mid-December. It was really late one night, and we were all still up for some reason. And Steve like texted us. And he was like, holy crap! Like Section 10 was just like talking about Jeter and Nomar on their show, and we had just put something on our Instagram about Steve's take about like Prime Nomar is better than Prime Jeter and all this. So
which is totally true.
It is.
Oh, it's totally true. I have no qualms
So
with that.
we were like so taken aback by it, and they were kind of joking around. They were like, we should have them on. It almost, it was crazy.
Real quick, partner, just to add a couple more details.
Yeah, go for it.
Jared was just talking. He said that he was scrolling through the r/Red Sox subreddit and said that there's a brand new podcast. He initially thought we were in high school, which is still like a running joke that we think is really funny to this day. We are not in high school. We are all in college. But he said, yep, listen to it. They're super young, and they had this take that Nomar is better than Jeter, and Jared, thought that was really funny because he thought we were so young that there was no chance that we would have ever been able to
known who Nomar was.
Yeah, like know anything about this debate, and that's how he kind of took interest in us. That was the way. So keep going, Gardner.
So then basically we like screen recorded the clip. We like threw up on social media. We were like crazy, like this is big. We were very, very content. And then we listened to the episode for like 30 minutes longer, and then they dropped our name, and we were like, wow. So I reached out to Steve Peralt and put something together for the next week to go on Section 10. And yeah, we did our thing there for an hour. And ever since then, we've been keeping close with them. We've been honestly, we just kind of took the momentum and ran with it. We've been working really hard on this. We all put in a lot of hours per week, doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It's not just, you sit behind a mic for an hour a week and then it goes up. Like there's a lot of other stuff that we do with it, but we just took the little bit of momentum that we were given and ran with it. And
a lot of momentum.
That's a good point, Steve. But yeah, we just ran with it, and we've been having a lot of fun with it. And it's really cool to us too that people are sticking with us and still supporting us. So that's the origin story of Gone Bridge right there.
If I can add one thing about the Section 10 guys, they've still, I kind of expected them to do a one-off with us, and then maybe we'd have like some casual conversation here and there. But, every time that we talk to those guys, they're always super gracious, super happy to talk to us. And, Gardner actually went to the game with Steve Peralt.
I saw that
2 weeks ago, I think it was.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
And I mean, Steve's an awesome guy. I was actually fortunately at the game myself. So I went over and talked to him, and, him and especially Jared too have just been super supportive the whole thing. So those guys are awesome. It really kind of didn't end with our appearance on Section 10, and they're still pretty involved, which is awesome.
I was about to say the exact same thing. It's awesome that it wasn't just like a one-off kind of thing with you where, where they kind of just reached out, they did the thing, and, it kind of all just shut down after that. It's really cool that they actually kind of maintain that kind of contact with you guys. I actually kind of a funny Jared Carabas story of my own. I actually met him back in, I think 2019. It was like this really kind of wacky kind of experience. So, my birthday's in January, so I ended up getting Red Sox tickets for April or whatnot. And it was like for me and my two other friends, Pat Edwards and John Warren. And I literally pulled up to John's house in the morning. We were driving down to the train station, and literally as we're about to board the train, John literally just turns to us and goes, "Boys, I don't feel too good," and literally proceeds to throw up in a parking lot. And we're just like, "John, what the hell?" And it was just like, "Well, now do we go?" And he's like, yeah, we're going. I was just like, all right, we're going to the Red Sox game. Let's do it. And I like called my mom. I was like, should we do this? And she was like, I can pick him up. And I was like, I think he wants to go. So we got on the train. We made it
classic boot and rally.
Boot and rally, yeah.
It was awesome. So we make it into like the station outside Fenway. We're going over. We end up going to Boston, into like Boston Beer Works. We're chilling in there. John ends up getting like these I think he ends up getting like fish tacos, or he gets like something that would like when you after you've thrown up, it's like the last thing you probably would get in your stomach. It's just I was just like, I don't know about this dude. I was like I remember being told when I was sick, oh, eat some McDonald's, the grease will soothe your stomach, and that didn't end well for me. Now I'm just like you're gonna eat like fish tacos after you just puked in a parking lot like less than an hour ago. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And he goes, I think that actually helped me. I'm just like, you're a freak, dude. Like, what the hell? And we get into the thing, and I didn't realize that I didn't realize at the time, but on our tickets it said like row 93, and like we're walking in there, and like we walk up, and we're just kind of walking up, and I'm trying to like like look out the rows and like be like, all right, which row is like 93, which row is 93, and I look over and I actually look down the row, and I'm just like, holy crap. And I was like, I turned to my buddy Pat, who was a big listener to Section 10 at the time. John was kind of getting into it at the time, but I turned to Pat. I was just like, I think that's Jared Carabas, and he goes, oh my God, you're right. And we end up going up, and then lo and behold, I turn up, and row 93 is in Section 10. I just didn't realize that it was in Section 10 at the time, and I was like, oh, and it just all hit me at once. And we get in there, and we ended up taking a picture with him. It was actually really cool. We got to kind of sit with him the entire game. It was actually the game where Chris Davis broke that like insanely long hitless streak. That he was on.
Oh yeah, that was tough.
Rick Porcello started that game, I believe.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then
game will go to Cooperstown.
Yeah, and then Chris Davis proceeded to get 3 hits that day. So I was just like, it wasn't even that one was enough, but we were standing next to him the whole time. He was actually just really mellow and calm the entire time. But when Chris Davis got that hit, he got up, was just doing kind of just a Bronx cheer, kind of just a nice little gentleman's clap at it. Was kind of really, really pumped. He was filming an episode of the Spikes Up tour, so when it happened, he was just so pumped, which was hilarious in my mind. I have a video of it when he got the hit at Fenway, and like the entire crowd just roared to their feet. It was hilarious.
Classic sarcastic cheer.
Oh yeah, it was great. And that was a great story in my mind. I don't think I've told that story on this show. I believe I told it on Robert Shelley's Pesky Pole podcast. I believe I told it over there. So, why not? Probably it's a good time to tell it with some Red Sox guys on the show. One to get their one to tell it and have it actually make some sense and not just throw that out there. But kind of getting into it, it's really awesome that you guys were able to have that kind of a connection with those guys. You guys have been able to have those guys on your show ever since, which is awesome. Kind of going off that though, I mean, obviously those guys are great guys to have on the show because of just how much they know about the sport. Going forward though, are there any guys that, dream scenario, who would be the dream guest that you guys would try to get on a show next?
This seems to be everybody's dream guy, and it's Nomar. Because I feel like that would just be so perfect that Nomar kind of kicked us off. And if we could get Nomar on the show, it doesn't seem like he does many interviews. I've never heard him go onto a podcast or anything, but I think he would be an awesome guest for us.
I thought you were about to say you never heard him speak.
We had a joke last week. We were saying that we should do like a Gonbridge sponsored like Jeter versus Nomar like deliberation roundtable where they just talk out like who's better.
Yeah.
That would be really funny. But realistically, like Nomar would be
insane.
Perfect. It would be perfect. But I think the next step would be to just get an active Red Sox player to come on the show, or even just an active MLB player, because we've had a few former players, a few former Sox on. But I think the next logical step would be just an active player, and that would be pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, Nomar would be a great pick to get on a show. For me personally, I would probably have to go with my favorite player ever, Dustin Pedroia. Dustin, for me, growing up, that's just who I idolized. I ended up being an outfielder in high school, but when I was younger, I wanted to be a second baseman for no other reason than that Dustin Pedroia played the position. If you asked me, hey, why, if anyone had asked me at the time, why do you want to be at second base so bad? Because Dustin Pedroia plays there. That's it. It was a very simple answer for me. And, Dustin Pedroia would definitely be my dream guest. I know that he seems like a great guy. Obviously, his career was cut short by Manny Machado, who's a scumbag of a human being. So,
I mean, I think our age group, everybody in college right now, I'd say Dustin Pedroia is the guy that everybody looked up to. Him and probably David Ortiz, but those were the two guys that we really got to see a lot growing up when we were in those prime ages of being just like super influenced and like player happy. So I think that Dustin Pedroia is an awesome pick. I would probably he'd be up there for me too.
Yeah, no, for me, it would be Dustin Pedroia for baseball. And then for football, obviously, we'd have to go with Rob Gronkowski. That's my dude.
That's
That's my dude. I'm just saying. I'm obviously one would be, I think, probably harder than the other, but just saying, that's my dude.
Dude, for real.
But kind of going forward with this, obviously, Nomar would be, probably the guest that you guys would try to get the most for. In terms of, maybe any goals that you have set for yourself, what are some things that, you have, maybe some goals that you want to achieve, maybe before the end of the summer going forward? Like how far, like, maybe kind of where are you guys trying to go from here with this?
That's a good question. So we've made some big strides actually last couple weeks. We put out some shirts, which was a big step for us. We've been talking about that for a long time. And we also landed our first sponsorship deal, which was really big. And those have been two things that we've talked about since the beginning as just like being long-term goals. Like once, that's definitely something that we had wanted to achieve. So very happy about that. But looking forward to the future, I mean, honestly, it's just growth in my mind. Just, keep putting out good product, keep doing what we're doing, and the people will follow, hopefully. Yeah, we're not really as caught up in like the numbers or, followers or anything like that. We really just like having, interactions with people, seeing those same people in our DMs or shooting us messages, asking us questions. Like that's the coolest part I think about all this is just, people wanting to interact with you about the Red Sox. So yeah, I would just say if we can just grow that base, that's my goal with everything. I don't know if you guys got anything else. I don't know.
I would say that my biggest thing would be to continue to do this for a long time, hit those episode milestones, 50, 100, whatever it be. But as we do hit all these bigger numbers with the episodes in terms of how many we're putting out, I want to make sure that I'm still enjoying it as much as I am like right now or episode 1. Because if I ever get to a point where I'm not having as much fun as I am today, then I'm not doing it right, So that's really what my goal is.
I'd say my goal is to see how far we can stretch this stuff in the off season. The off season's tough, especially for an in-season sport like baseball, especially where everything in baseball is so spread out. You get those blitzes of like 2 weeks with winter meetings and the hot stove, and then you go like 2 months without hearing anything. Yeah. And then, you get another 2-day blitz where guys will sign, and then it's just nothing again until spring training. Yeah. So for us starting out, it was tough, but I am looking forward to seeing how we can keep growing over the offseason. I think we'd love to take a lot of guests over the offseason just because that's when it's easiest for them and it helps us fill some weeks, and we love having guests on. So for me, I'd say this offseason I think is going to be interesting for us just because it's a tough transition, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Something I've seen that my buddy who does a football podcast is doing, because, he's kind of in that spot right now where like just nothing is happening. Obviously, you can talk about Aaron Rodgers and all the things going on there because that's just an ever going on story. But kind of outside of that, he's been doing his episodes have been centered around ranking the positions of players. That's what he's been kind of centered around doing. So that's been good for him. But I think that kind of concludes what we had for the segment of kind of just like talking to you guys about the podcast. Now I think it's time that we can finally just say, let's get into some baseball. Let's actually talk. Let's actually get into it. So obviously, before we get into the main story that is dominating the MLB right now, something cool that I just found out is that Baseball Reference is now going to be including stats from the Negro Leagues. As a stat head, I actually find that really cool because, just being able to, look up stats in general, I know like I'm always trying to stay on top of that. So, kind of having that extra bit of knowledge, which, has been always a part of history. It's kind of cool to look back on. I mean, there are definitely some things that, have now changed in terms of precedent because of it. Because I think now if you include some of the things, I believe Josh Gibson, who was a player, I believe back in like the 30s and 40s, he now technically has the highest average in MLB history with a 441 average.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
Just single season, I think.
Single season average. My apologies. Yeah. Yeah, so he now has the highest single season average. There's a bunch of like crazy things that are kind of going on with it. But I did want to touch on that real quick because I thought that was actually kind of cool. But obviously, the main story that is dominating the MLB right now is the topic of illegal substances. And it's now coming down that MLB is going to be kind of handing out 10 game fines 10 game suspensions rather for people who are caught using this stuff. It's going to apply all from the sticky spider tack all the way down to like mixing sunscreen with rosin. They are going to leave the rosin bag on the mound. Originally, people were saying that they actually were going to take that off, and I was like, that's a kind of insane that they might do that. But kind of where do you guys stand on this, and how do you guys? And I'll kind of relate this back to the Red Sox in just a second.
So really fast, going back to the Negro League thing, super quickly, as I do really think that it's an awesome thing that they're doing. But the way that they're doing it is that only stats prior to when Jackie Robinson made his first appearance on the Brooklyn Dodgers, only those stats are going to count. So guys like Hank Aaron aren't going to get all of his home runs in the Negro League. So to like count towards his MLB career stats or whatever, because that's just where they're cutting it off right now. And I think it's a super interesting, probably controversial little note that they're kind of nobody's really shining too big of a spotlight on. So I would like to see what you think, because I don't know if you knew that prior to me saying it just now.
I feel like when I heard the story today about it, I wasn't thinking about it. I think that was something I heard about back when it happened. And I think it's not the best reason for it. Well, I think that maybe a later date should have been assigned than when Jackie Robinson made his debut because he was the only black player in the league.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was essentially saying, well, because the league was integrated, then essentially those stats dissolve. But I don't think I don't think that should necessarily be the case. But I know some of those leagues carried on, I think, until like the 60s. So I feel like maybe those stats don't necessarily carry over, but honestly, I think it's a good kind of first thing to see with kind of good first thing to see with those stats. I'm glad to just see them, on Baseball Reference in general, because you looked up Satchel Paige on Baseball Reference, it only showed stats from his 40s. It was like, what?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of cool. It's nice to see, and as a person who really likes their stats, I found it cool to watch.
Yeah, I totally agree that it is a good stepping stone, good place to start. Maybe in the future we'll see a little bit of a change, but maybe not. And either way, at least we have this now. So I guess let's go into the foreign substance little talk.
I'll let you take that on first.
Yeah, Gardner, Clausen, you got anything that you want to hop on, or you want me to just go?
It's a bad day to be Garrett Cole.
Yeah,
Steve.
Yeah.
Bad day to be a can of spider tack.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for people that don't know, the reason why these pitchers are using the sticky stuff, the sticky substances, whatever it is, rosin and bullfrog, pine tar, spider tack, Bauer secret stuff, whatever he's got going on, because he has allegedly worked with chemists, quote unquote, to make his own like custom brand of secret stuff.
Yeah.
So the reason that they use it, sorry, I just cut you off. What were you going to say?
Oh no, go ahead. I was just agreeing with you.
Oh yeah. But the reason that the pitchers are using it because it increases their spin rate, AKA RPM, AKA revolutions per minute, I think. So it's like the numbers they increase by like a couple hundred. It's kind of irrelevant because the whole thing about it is it makes the pitches a lot harder to read and a lot harder to hit. So it's creating an unfair advantage for the pitchers, even though that everybody in the league apparently uses it. And now that the MLB is cracking down on it, I think the only reason that they're cracking down on it is because the general public is becoming more and more aware of the fact that like the MLB knows that we know that they know people are using it, and they don't want to look like they're not going to do anything about players actively cheating like their game. So it's really controversial. And guys like Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole are like these superstars that are making a lot of money, and they're probably going to be on the MLB's hit list to crack down on ASAP, just because it's like, these are the guys, let's make an example out of them. Let's suspend them for 10 days. And like you said, the MLB released this entire memo. It was a very long memo, highlighting all of the things that they're going to do. One of the main things is that the pitchers are going to get suspended. and that the teams that they're on cannot replace the pitchers with like a different player, because then they're essentially be playing a man down during the suspension period, which is going to like make this thing kind of more serious, and the players are going to have to think about it a little bit more. So that's my general, spiel about that for now.
The thing for me, like about all this, is that we know that players for years have been using all sorts of stuff. And I mean, the thing was that it got to a point where it was like, you're not going to go out to the mound. Your manager's not going to go out to the mound to, question whatever Yankees pitcher is using, because that 10 of your own guys are using it. And that was exactly the Michael Pineda situation. The only reason that got called out was because that was like so obvious. It was like legitimately a different like skin tone on his neck. It was like he was begging for himself to get called out.
Well, not even that, but I mean, he also like literally the start before against the Red Sox, people were saying, oh, it looks like he has something on his hand. And it was just like, oh, wow, that might be something to watch. And literally his next start. Yeah. It was all on his hand.
Yeah.
And literally the next start, the guy just didn't get the hint. And he just said, hey, let me make this more obvious.
Yeah. And just smeared it all over his neck. So, I mean, that's one of those things where it's just like, come on, man. Like, are you really this bad at cheating? Like, come on. But honestly, I feel like the reason for this is because despite everybody using something, not everybody was using the spider tack. And the spider tack compared to like sunscreen and rosin, that's a huge difference. And I think that when this the dust all settles on this and some pitchers' numbers start to go up and get worse, I think you'll be able to see, who was using that spider tack and who was just using, whatever regular stuff they could find in the dugout. But I think it's good that they're cracking down on this. I've heard people comparing this to like the new age of steroids, which is not. That's just preposterous. Like, it's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal. But overall, it's good. I mean, you want to keep the game as clean as you can. Get the spider tack out of here. I think the rosin and sunscreen might be a little bit extreme, but I'm all for the equal playing field, and I'm going to be curious to see, which pitchers really, really struggle from here on out because of this.
Speaking of pitchers who are struggling right now, I just got an ESPN notification right as we started talking about this, that Tyler Glasnow has a partially torn UCL, which can contribute to Tommy John surgery. And somebody asked him about it, and
there he goes.
Most likely
he is thinking that using less.
So awesome.
Start over, bud.
Tyler Glasnow.
Well, unfortunately, it seems that we've lost Alex for the time being. But something that interesting that I kind of found out about about kind of the whole illegal substance thing before we maybe get into
So Tyler Glasnow, I just saw.
There we go. Now he's back. Now he's back. We'll see. All right.
Time out until your internet stabilizes.
Bad day to be Xfinity, bud.
I don't have Xfinity.
You're in timeout for now.
Yeah.
I hope you're good at editing.
Oh, I'm not. Don't worry. I don't really care though. I don't.
Should be a clean cut. Am I
worry.
good now?
Yeah, you're good.
Sure.
Should I start with my segue from Gardner?
No, you're good. We heard Glasnow.
Tyler Glasnow.
Tyler Glasnow.
Come on.
All right.
Partially torn UCL.
Timeout. You can't talk anymore.
You're done.
Yeah.
You just
Is it really that bad?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, every time you try and talk for an extended period of time, your internet just absolutely messes the bed. So, Brian, I think you should just.
All right, wait, hold on, wait. Third time's a charm.
Dude, this is like the fourth time, but I guess go.
Right, fourth time's a charm. Anyways, Tyler Glasnow now is a partially torn UCL, which can contribute to Tommy John, I guess. And what he was saying was that he's thinking that the going from using substances to going to nothing or cutting down on them just kind of affects how you throw the ball, affects your arm angle, everything like that. Affects how hard you can throw too. And so he thinks it's kind of bad for it, like just cracking down. If guys are getting used to it in the off season and training with it, and then all of a sudden they're not using it at all, it kind of tears their arm apart. And then I also just saw an ESPN notification that Alex Cora talked to the pitching staff. This seems a little lame, but he was like, it's embarrassing to get suspended, so don't get suspended. I don't know how much.
Coming from him, that seems like an interesting
Yeah,
thing to say.
yeah, it seems like
Yeah.
kind of a backhanded comment. You know,
It
I don't
seems
know.
like he has some experience with that, unfortunately.
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe he's the right guy to talk about it because he did get caught.
Going off
Yeah.
of that real quick, Lawson, is it's interesting because the Red Sox are third in increase in RPM between last season and this season. They're behind only the Dodgers are number one, and I believe the Chicago White Sox are number two. The Dodgers are really interesting because the Reds the year prior were the team with the biggest increase in RPM on their pitching staff from season to season, and they signed Trevor Bauer for 1 year. They're the first team in RPM. Now the Dodgers have Trevor Bauer. They're the first team in RPM, but the Red Sox are third. And after the league has been trying to crack down on this, the Red Sox pitching staff, their starters, were overperforming a very large amount for the beginning of the season. And then all of a sudden the MLB is like, hey guys, we know that you're doing something, not you, the Red Sox necessarily, but we know you're all doing something. And now recently the Red Sox pitching staff, especially the starters, have been kind of getting knocked around. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm going to stop you right there. It's already been, I've seen reports. Spin rate has been the same for the starting rotation. Martin Perez, just a tough 2 weeks for him. But I will say, you ever think that the increase in spin rate from 2020 to 2021 maybe is because we went from guys, say, Mike Kickham, Matt Hall, and Kyle Hart to Garrett Richards, Nick Pivetta, and the Sawman?
I mean, all I'm gonna say is that I'll point one guy out specifically, Nathan Eovaldi, who was hot garbage last year, and every time I've seen him pitch, he goes out and gives a good performance. I mean, every time I've been, he's actually been on the mound, and he's put in at least 5 innings every time and hasn't allowed a run, I don't think.
I mean, counterpoint to that is that Eddie was better last year than he was this year.
Eddie didn't even pitch last
year. Yeah, I mean, but I guess like 2 years ago, but he has been injured a lot. So that's like not a great example, but there's ways that you can spin this story to make it look better for you and your team. And that's what everybody in the MLB is trying to figure out right now, how they can make themselves look better just compared to everybody else, not, by themselves individually, but if we look better than the Dodgers, then we look pretty good. If Garrett Cole looks worse than Martin Perez, then I think we're okay. I think that's the way that the entire league's kind of shifting right now.
Mm-hmm. Something interesting I kind of found out with this was I ended up following this guy on TikTok. He doesn't want to release his full name yet, but I've had him on the show, and I just used his tag, and I had him on the show, and I was talking with him. It was kind of interesting because he's almost been covering this story since like April, kind of like, breaking down guys like Freddie Peralta of the Brewers and him loading up you to use a super slider and different things like that. So one of the interesting things I've kind of seen with from his kind of point of view with it is he's almost kind of attributed the substance to not really providing a better grip, but almost like, the pitchers, because they have so much extra spin, the balls are almost going out of control because you see hit by pitches in MLB are at a kind of at an all-time high this year. At least they're up. He was also kind of pointing out individual instances too. You looked at when Bryce Harper got hit in the face by Genesis Cabrera. And Cabrera was also just hitting other guys too. He had caught Cabrera for going to stuff when he had. I think there was a guy I'm trying to remember who, but there was a pitcher I believe for the Braves who got hit. That guy, the pitcher who was on the mound was getting caught for stuff. And I kind of found it interesting. I think also the pitcher who maybe hit Pilar was, he might have debunked him as a possible user as well. So I kind of found it interesting that that correlation wouldn't necessarily lead to more grip, but almost less, because guys are just throwing as hard as they can. They're trying to get as much spin as possible, and these things are just running away from them and causing all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, usually the thing that I see is that it's the other way around, where if they give them this sticky substance, they have more control and they can, paint corners a little better. They can get a better grip on the ball. And I guess like rosin is kind of supposed to be able to do that, dry your hands off and stuff. But if you're able to grip the baseball that much better, then I guess like in football terms, if you're gripping a wet football, you're not going to be able to pinpoint stuff as if you have a dry football. And then one more thing I wanted to tack on, Pete Alonso was talking about how he thinks that, and this kind of goes into spin rate stuff with the spider tack and everything like that. I guess it's more with like deadening baseballs and juicing baseballs. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but he was talking about how it seems like the MLB will flip, if they want to juice baseballs or deaden baseballs based on the trend of the league and the trend of free agents, especially. So if there's a bunch of really big time pitchers coming into the free agent market in the next couple of years, they're going to deaden baseballs, make them look even better so that they can get a better payday. And then other way around, if you have guys who are coming into the free agent market in the next couple of years who just hit tanks, then you're going to want to juice baseballs to kind of bring up the hype around them. So I thought that was interesting. I haven't really looked into how those things have worked out, but I thought that was an interesting theory out of him.
I have heard that as well, and frankly, I've heard a lot of the juicing baseball thing being thrown at the feet of Rob Manfred for blame, and frankly, I'm all in because I hate Rob Manfred. But I find it to be an interesting conversation because I know guys are using it, but I think I think people now I think when Trevor Bauer I think back in 2018 or so he wasn't using it in his ERA. It was like in the fours, and he was like literally pointing out to guys, and he was saying. And he was kind of almost like kind of sounding the alarm and saying like, hey, this stuff is going on.
Yep.
Like we should almost kind of, do something about it. MLB did nothing. And I think he literally even said, all right, I'll go out, I'll use this stuff and I'll win a Cy Young.
Yeah, he said, this is what my stats would look like if I did use foreign substance, which I don't right now. He calculated what his RPM would look like on it, and then his Cy Young season replicated those stats pretty closely. And not only was it close, it was more. He was even better than he thought he was going to be with this foreign substance. So it's pretty crazy. I think I watched a YouTube video. I forget who posted it, but if you look it up, like I'm sure you'll find it. It's a really great video highlighting Trevor Bauer and stuff. So
yeah. I mean, obviously you guys brought it up at the start. The Garrett Cole interview, that was a train wreck.
Yeah, yeesh.
That
Yeah,
is
I hate
rough,
to see
buddy.
it.
I mean,
at the end of the day, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go.
End of the day, I mean, just closing thoughts from me. End of the day, as long as it provides entertainment in the game of baseball, I'm all for it. I don't want everybody cheating. I don't want pitchers and hitters using steroids, and then hitters are using corked bats, and it just kind of turns into this fake game of baseball. But
WWE.
at the same time, if you're being smart about it and you're using stuff to elevate the game, do it.
Really? There you go. Kind of going off that though. I mean, I don't know. I want the game to be as clean as possible. I want it to, kind of be like that. I especially don't want to be seeing like cork bats and like steroids and all that stuff. I don't know. I think that, cutting down on it, with the increased stuff that you're seeing. I mean, you look at Garrett Cole, you look at his stats like back in Pittsburgh, as soon as he got to Houston, they jumped exponentially. And, I think that helped to make him the $300 million man that he is now. I don't think he'd be nearly that. He wouldn't be nearly that guy if he didn't use that stuff. So yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how these guys, kind of shake out as opposed to it. I was glad that you guys brought up that the Red Sox were third in spin rate going on, but I don't know. I'm nervous to see how this Red Sox rotation is going to do because we were overperforming a lot this year. Nick Pivetta was looking solid this year. Martin Perez was helping us out a lot. Now Erod was sucking just in general, unfortunately, which wasn't great for us. We need that to step up a bit. Eovaldi is doing fine, but could obviously be doing better than it could. I frankly think he should be doing better with the money that we're paying him, but
that's
a
just
conversation.
an issue of the Red Sox paid him too much for who he is, and he's going to do. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to live up to it, but please continue.
If you could breathe after 2018, you got a contract.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that I don't know. It's just so tough because I think that I don't know. That's been kind of their big issue with spending money, and unfortunately, that's why I wasn't the big Heim Bloom fan because he kind of went in was playing things a little more safely, which and wasn't really going after guys, which I was like, why? Because I think after the Yankees and the Dodgers, it's us in terms of payroll. So I was just like, why do we have to play like the Tampa Bay Rays right now in terms of kind of spending? I thought it was kind of stupid. But we have made some stupid moves. I know we're still paying Manny Ramirez right now, so it's like, haven't made the best financial investments throughout our times. Obviously, still trying to figure some stuff out there.
Yeah, Manny's earned it.
Manny's earned it, but it's just like, really, we're still paying him, we're still paying Dustin Pedroia, who again, I think they've earned it, but it's just like, I think we're paying like over $100 million to guys who aren't even on the team anymore. Like that's bad.
Yeah,
you don't want that money piling up.
Had some bad investments, but not gonna complain about 4 World Series in 17 years. So I mean, it's all kind of worked out. It's all evened out.
it all kind of washes out in the end.
Mhm.
You know, one of those investments that people kind of have been judging about, and we're gonna have to see, you know, whether it does live up to the hype in the end, was Chris Sale. Good news for us is that he seems to be back throwing again at Fenway Park. You know, obviously missed last year, the COVID year, due to Tommy John surgery because you know, just through you know all the tear that's gone on in his arm. But it seems that he's back throwing again at Fenway Park. What do you guys expect out of him going forward? You know, at least for this season and you know possibly even beyond. Do you think he can get? Do you think he can ever get back to those levels, or do you think that you know he's just gonna be a you know a shadow of his former self?
I think he can.
Yeah, you can go.
I think he could. I just don't think that he could do it the way that he was doing it. I mean, we've seen him. Obviously, he's got some of the best breaking stuff in the game. You know, with his slider, he's got that changeup.
Dirty.
But yeah, one of the best pitches in all of baseball. I look at a guy like Zach Greinke that I think when Chris Sale comes back, you could kind of compare him to. Greinke, I mean, used to be a very overpowering pitcher. He had the fastball, and now he's kind of transitioned to weak contact, a lot of off-speed stuff. And, you know, Chris Sale used to be a guy who would come out and it was like, if he's not striking out 12 batters a night, like what's going on? I think Chris Sale is still going to be able to get outs. I don't think he'll be able to get as many swing and misses. I still think he's going to be like at worst a number 2 in the rotation, which we could desperately need right now. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, but I wouldn't expect like his fastball to be as explosive as it was. But I think as long as he's able to kind of approach the game in a little bit of a different way and just kind of rely on his off-speed stuff a little bit more, who knows, maybe even like develop a sinker or something like that. I think he'll be fine.
Chris Sale's sinker would be dirty.
Yeah. So if I could hop in too, we have seen many examples around the league, especially in recent history, of pitchers getting Tommy John surgery and coming back from it and still being extremely effective, if not as good and better than they were prior. A perfect example of that is a guy like Steven Strasburg, won the World Series MVP, had a unreal playoff run that year, and he got Tommy John surgery, and he's doing pretty all right.
Yeah.
But that being said, a guy like Chris Sale, if you look at how he pitches, his arm angle is one of the most unconventional and weirdest arm angles in the entire league, and that probably contributed to his need for Tommy John surgery in the first place. And like Gardner said, he was mainly a 2-pitch guy with a very, a small percentage of the time, a changeup in there. And he would throw 97. Sometimes he would reach triple digits on his fastball, and then he would have an absolutely wipe out slider that just probably was the best slider in the entire league when he was really throwing it well.
I'd say that, yeah.
Yeah. So do I think that he's going to come out of Tommy John surgery and throw this 97 mile per hour fastball consistently? Probably not. Am I more concerned about how his arm angle and the movement of his slider is so dependent on that arm angle that his slider may not be as effective as it was before Tommy John surgery? I think that's really where the issue is going to come from, because if he doesn't have that wipeout slider that he used to, he's not Chris Sale anymore, Yeah, so no. I don't think anybody can really predict how he's going to come back. I think if you say exactly how Chris Sale is going to perform after this Tommy John surgery, you're just straight up a liar. So yeah. I'm hoping that he's
I was about to say, yeah, you're just a liar.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he's going to be great. I think that he's going to be at least good, but only time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, I can hope that I'll actually start by saying I love seeing the grainy hidden iPhone video of Chris Sale. Like it's almost not supposed to be leaked, but it's definitely supposed to be leaked that Chris Sale is throwing off the mound. So I love seeing him back on the mound again. But I would definitely say that I think it's very hard to tell to see how he's going to come back from it. He's in his 30s, coming off from Tommy John. You're usually not your best right away. But I can hope that Gardner mentioned Zach Greinke. I'm going to mention Justin Verlander, because at some point Justin Verlander, toward the end of his career in Detroit, broke down, velocity was down. He was kind of getting shelled out there, really not a good pitcher. And then he went to Houston. Maybe it was spin rate, maybe it was sticky stuff, I don't know. But he figured something out and kind of became a different pitcher that, was less about overpowering you with their fastball, but working on those off-speed pitches, painting corners, trying to get you out in different ways than just throwing it right by you.
one word I would use is finesse.
I was going to say finesse. He's a finesse pitcher. And I'm hoping that Chris Sale can take a page out of his book and kind of become that, because he has the stuff to become a finesse pitcher. Like, he's not Noah Syndergaard, who is only going to throw it by you, and that's pretty much it. He has other pitches that he can go to and strike you out that way. So hard to tell. I'm excited to see him on the mound, and I'm hoping that maybe if we don't see the same Chris Sale we saw 2 years ago, we still see a good one.
Before I get my response about it, I just want to say Rafi Devers just hit a 3-run home run. So let's go. So did Hunter Renfroe. So did Hunter Renfroe. So now it's 4-0. So there we go.
There you go.
Let's go.
Just wanted to say that. So
that.
There we go.
Love to see it.
Also, one quick thing on the Sale. He was thrown for the Woo Sox today in the bullpen. So maybe we'll see him with a rehab start. I was like expecting like a lower rehab start, maybe like Salem, but who knows? Maybe we'll see him in Worcester somewhat soon.
Yeah.
Plus, nice to see that smile.
Back Polar Park.
Have you guys been to Polar Park yet?
We have not, but we want to go.
We're gonna get there soon.
Yeah.
I highly recommend.
You went?
Yeah, I've been twice. It's really nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's only like 10 minutes from me, so it's not bad.
Oh, jeez.
If I was like 10 minutes away from the Woo Sox, I would be there like every other game.
Yeah. No, I went there. I ended up getting tickets in like the DCU club. My dad had like tickets from work, and then I went there. I went back when it was like 25% capacity. It was like still COVID limited, but now like they just don't give a damn, and it's like all open. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So highly recommend doing that.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Wait, where's my?
Somebody's got a Woo Sox. Hey,
there we go.
Hey, there it is.
That'll go up on the wall soon.
That is an awesome wall.
I appreciate it. Yeah. No, I've done the entire AL East, I think the entire NL East besides Miami, and then some other parks as well.
Wow, that's dope.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wait.
What's up?
Nothing. I don't know.
I thought I heard someone say wait. I was like, wait. I was like, wait. What?
Oh no.
No, all good. Obviously, I think seeing Sale come back would be awesome. I like the analogy of Zach Greinke, because I was actually just watching, like a week ago, I was watching videos of Zach Greinke. He was calling him like the weirdest guy in baseball, which obviously, yes.
Yeah, we all see.
But
it's a good one.
But one of the funny things I remember from that video was he stopped throwing his slider because he said his arm felt different. It didn't hurt. It just felt different. And it's just like obviously, when it comes to Chris Sale, he's going to need his slider. But for Zach Greinke for the longest time, that was his, that was kind of his pitch, and he did away with it. It'll be interesting to see what Chris Sale does to, kind of reinvent himself as long as he can come back. My big stance with Tommy John is that, the first year you're just trying to see the guy come back. It's almost like an ACL injury in football. The first year, they're just trying to get back on. They're just trying to do what they can. It's that second year that you hope that they can regain what they once were. So this year, I'm just hoping Sale can go out there and, just not re-injure himself. As long as he can do that, I think that's a win in my books. It's what he can do next year. And if he can return to some of that competitive form next year, that's what I'm kind of aiming at for him right now.
I think it's a really good point. It's a good comparison with the ACL in football, for sure.
They literally, I feel like, line up perfectly. It's just like, they're just so common now at this point. I mean, you're seeing kids now even get Tommy John just because they're trying to make their arms into superhuman.
Yeah, I think like the whole sports science thing and how athletic people are getting, it's just like people's bodies can't keep up with how, good at the game people are getting, how athletic they're getting. Like you see a guy like Chase Young in the NFL, like that guy's just too big not to go his entire career without a lower body injury. He's just big. He moves too fast. He's too heavy. Like I don't wish any injuries on anybody. They're terrible. I would hope it never happens, but he's just too big and he moves too fast. He cuts too quick. And I think that's just the way that like athletes are going now.
I see the same thing with like a Lamar Jackson too. When he goes out there, I'm just like, he's one bad step away. And, obviously again, don't want to wish that on anyone, but I'm just like, it's true.
Yeah. Realistically, for sure.
Yeah. Another thing that kind of concludes rather what we had in Chris Sale news. What I had hinted at the beginning of the show was, the Andrew Benintendi trade has since been completed. We now know some of the prospects that are now going over. It includes guys like, I believe it was the Mets number 18 prospect. He's now a fielder. I think he's like currently like 18 years old right now. And, we're now starting to see like the final pieces of this trade come into fruition. Benintendi actually just recently went on the 10-day DL. And I think now that, everything is falling into place, has your guys' opinion on this trade changed since it's gone down? Or do you think that, have there been any changes in your mind?
Before we get started here, I already see the smile on this kid's face. I just want you to know that Alex Clausen's going to give you an absolutely ridiculous answer. But Clausen, you can start if you want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm gonna be realistic here because I loved Benny. Like, he was easily my favorite player on the team, and it sucked to see him traded. I'm not gonna lie, and he's kind of ripping it up in KC now too. Last I looked, he was hitting like 290 with like 6 homers. It's pretty good. It's not gonna start the All-Star game, but I mean that's a good everyday outfielder. Oh, yeah. And right now the return hasn't returned on its investment. We'll see over the next 5 years. Franchi has been ripping it up in Worcester. He didn't rip it up at all in the majors. He had one like nuke of a home run, and then right after that, I mean, he just went right back to striking out. So we'll see how Franchi works out. If he can carry his success from Worcester into the majors, that's kind of a huge win. And then obviously these prospects are a huge toss up. You never know what you're getting from prospects, especially if they're not like a top 10 in the organization. You really have no idea how they're going to develop, no idea how they're going to take the atmosphere. So I can hope that these guys turn out to be solid pieces and we win the trade. But in the end of the day, I mean, Benny's still young. He's still got time to develop, and so do all these guys. So I think it's going to take probably 5 years for this trade to fully unfold. But for now, I've got hope. I know the one guy you just mentioned, the outfielder, I looked at his scouting report a little bit, and he's like 6'3", like 200 pounds. He's kind of a tank. And the thing that I was reading about was that he has a lot of raw power, but not a very high average guy. So it sounded like we were getting another Franchi Cordero, which I'm kind of hoping not. But, time will tell again. He's only 18, can develop somebody's eye pretty well if he's got good raw power. So crossing my fingers.
I did get to see Franchi Cordero down in Worcester. I can confirm he is going to be our next Rusney Castillo, unfortunately.
Yep.
The wonder of Worcester.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm about to say the wonder of Worcester. I actually saw him. He actually had a really nice double, and then he got on with like this terrible like Texas leaguer pop fly, which the left fielder. Actually, one of the actual kind of funny things about playing in Worcester is that it's so freaking windy there. So when you hit a ball in the air, like if you just hit it upwards, there's like a jet stream. So you just hit a pop fly and that thing literally flies out of the park. It's insane. Like you don't even need to get a good hold of it. If you just get it, if you just get it up, the thing just goes.
I've heard that too, that the ball just flies down there.
Yeah. So that's why Jaron Duran was able to hit one out of the stadium. That's why Franchi was able to put one on top of the batter's eye. It's just insanity there.
You got anything on the Benny trade, Andrew, or you want me to go?
I don't got much, kid. Just he's hurt now. So
all I got is realistically, I think, well, before he was traded, when it was just rumors, my mentality was Benny's not doing great right now. He's kind of injury prone, but let's give him one more year because why not? Because we like him. He won a World Series with us. I like Benny. One more year. Let's do it. Fortunately, that's not the case. And now that we, see everything that happened, we're getting 5 players, most of whom are pretty young and can potentially be something for what I believe to be a career league average to below league average player in Andrew Benintendi. I do not think that he's going to really replicate his 2018 season. I think that was his best season. I don't think that he's ever going to get past, the league average mark in terms of his all-around play. I think that maybe he'll have 1 or 2 outlier years where he'll hit above 300, but I don't think he's got power. I don't think that he's really a 5-tool guy. So my mentality is if any one of these 5 players turns out to be league average or above league average, then we won the trade because we got more quantity and we would get the same exact quality back. But like Clausen said, we're not going to know how it really plays out for another 4 or 5, who knows, years.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a lot down the line. One of the guys I've been looking at is the A-ball pitcher we got from the A-ball pitcher. I don't know if it was from the Royals or the Mets organization. It was his name's
I believe
Josh
it was the
Winkowski.
Mets. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh Winkowski. He actually really interests me because I think that he has a lot of potential out of all the guys that we got. I'd be really excited to see how he turns out.
Yeah, we'll see what we get from him. I don't know, just a bunch of wild cards, I guess. And as Steve said, one of them's decent. We'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously with this Red Sox team, as it's getting closer to, to the halfway point throughout the season, things are starting to get more and more real. Obviously, you mentioned Glasnow might be out for some time. The Rays were in first, so this might give us a chance to really, maybe bounce back on, it's unfortunate for Glasnow, but, in terms of the Red Sox, this might actually give us a real chance to actually make some, to really make a move and really get up there and, make a shot at the division. Is there a guy in your mind that we should try to go for at this trade deadline, or do you think that we should try to, hold off and do something maybe more like, down the line in the future?
So for me, I was on the boat for a while that a good, solid, reliable lefty arm in the bullpen would do this team some great good. However, I am extremely high on Josh Taylor at the moment. I think he has proven himself to be an effective arm that I will see like trot out there, and I'm like, all right, Josh Taylor's going out. I feel confident. I feel comfortable. Not only that, I feel confident right now with this guy.
And that's surprising because a couple of weeks ago I felt the exact opposite when it came to Josh Taylor going on the mound.
I had this argument with Clausen the other day about like whether Josh Taylor was good or not, and now Clausen's just eating his words, and I love it.
Yeah, I actually sent out a tweet on the Gone Bridge account a couple of days ago, and I said if you told me that Josh Taylor would be the get me out of a jam guy 2 months ago, I would have sent you to a mental hospital because that guy was hot garbage, and I still get a little worried every time I see him. I feel like he's kind of like an explosion waiting to happen, but he hasn't yet, so maybe he won't.
Yeah, I look at his success as a broken clock being right twice a day. I'm just like, all right, he might be able to do it all right for now, but I'm just like, when do we see the Josh Taylor that we all know and hate?
Right.
Let's not. I mean, fingers crossed we never do again. But
yeah, exactly.
To finish off, I would say that we could still benefit from a fourth outfielder, maybe a veteran presence. I think that Gardner, a couple episodes ago, mentioned Charlie Blackmon as a potential target.
And been heavy on that train.
Yeah, I love Charlie Blackmon.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that at all. So that's what I'm thinking.
I love that guy.
Yeah. He's literally like the perfect fit, like veteran outfielder, left-handed bat, which we could use. He's hit lead off his entire career. I mean, he's a good average hitter. Like he checks every box. He's also a free agent after this year with a player option or
and a big ass beard. No.
And a big ass beard would fit him perfectly. So I don't know if the Rockies are going to be shopping him. I mean, if I were them, I certainly would because their team stinks.
They're awful.
Charlie Blackmon, man, hop on the bandwagon now before it's too late.
I like it. Now, I mean, that kind of concludes what we had in terms of talking some Red Sox. I am glad that I was able to get your guys' conversation on that. Charlie Blackmon, it's actually funny. I have that guy in my Red Sox franchise thing on MLB The Show. That actually kind of gave me some good vibes because I have him on MLB The Show. I think he's currently leading the league in average because I had the slider set low at first.
Yeah, that is good vibes.
I think it was between him and trying to think who else it was. I also had Arenado in the team. I didn't even do like a cheap kind of fantasy draft. It was legit, but I just did good. And
where you got Devers?
Colorado Red Sox.
Oh yeah. Why didn't I do Devers? Oh, because he was already gone.
No. Oh, he's already gone. Right?
It was a fantasy draft.
Yeah. No, it was a nice little thing. And I saw Blackmon. I was like, I like that. Do you guys play MLB The Show or no?
Yeah, I'm not big into the Diamond Dynasty. I'm not a good hitter at all. So if I put 2 runs on the board, my pitching usually holds out. But I am not good at the game by any means. So
are you guys Xbox or PlayStation?
I have an Xbox.
Nice.
I have a PlayStation. Yeah. I've been playing the show since I think the first one I got was MLB The Show 14, and it's just phenomenal game.
Yeah, I was big in. I had an Xbox before I got my PS4, and I was big into the MLB 2K games, not because they were
Same.
good, but because it was the only thing I could find.
Yep.
And then they went out. They stopped making them for a couple of years, and I think right after that, I was like, all right, I got to get a PS4, and I think I actually got it the year that they stopped making them because I knew that they weren't making them anymore, and I couldn't go longer without playing a baseball game. So
Yeah. I didn't want to I knew that Xbox had like RBI baseball, but I refused to download that as a game.
yeah, it was garbage.
So
That
for the
game is
past
terrible.
8 years I was just playing MLB 2K13 on my Xbox 360, just waiting.
Yeah.
Just plot
I have that game
just
too.
just plotting my revenge, just
Yeah.
waiting.
Terrible
just
game.
waiting for Oh. Yeah, listen, when it's the only thing you have, you appreciate it. You appreciate the little things in life.
That is true.
I remember
I popped it in my Xbox 360 like 2 months ago, and I forgot how like different it is from the show.
Yeah.
Like the timing is all weird. The whole controls are so weird.
You got to swing with like the stick on there instead
Yep.
of
Oh, yeah.
buttons.
I actually changed it to the buttons. You can change the buttons.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it still screwed me up. Like I kind of couldn't get a hang of it.
I used to like swinging with the sticks. I used
I
to
thought
really
it was
like
easy,
that.
like
Yeah,
because
used
you
to be able
kind
to
of
time that
like
out.
cock up and then like swing.
Yeah. Let it fly.
It's not the
Exactly.
same on the show though. It's actually like difficult to do it with the sticks on the show, which kind of sucks because I really wanted to do that. I was actually trying to make the controls as similar to MLB 2K13 as possible, and then I realized that it doesn't translate that way, and I was like, shoot,
It's not an easy switch.
no. I got the hang of it now, and now I've thrown like 2 perfect games with Zach Wheeler, so now we're chilling.
Zach
good.
Wheeler, you say?
Jeez.
Yeah. What about him?
Nothing. I was thinking of somebody else. Clausen is an arch nemesis on the show that just absolutely ruins him. But not originally I was like, that guy, but it's different.
Nah, it's not. So I haven't bought the new one yet. I'm still playing the show 20.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just haven't bought the new one yet for no reason. And I played against Chris Bassett on the A's, and I got roped. Like it was like 7-0. I had a good team too, and I got like perfect. I had like a perfect game against me, and I let up like 5 home runs. Like I really just got roped, and then I did it again, and it happened again. And so like I would start taking like good teams. Like I took the Yankees because I was desperate, and I think I got like 1 hit. And then I finally beat Chris Bassett like last week, and I've played like 3 times against the A's, and I've beat him every time. So I think I've finally gotten over my Chris Bassett, defeated streak. But it took me a while. I actually changed the camera angle. I don't play on like the show 15 camera angle anymore. I went to offset and I started sitting on pitches, and it made a world of difference.
That's good to hear.
Congrats.
I'm really enjoying it too, so it's been good.
It's a great game.
Oh, I
Great
love
game.
it.
Great game.
Now that kind of concludes what we had in Red Sox news. I did want to touch on the show really quick because I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to go with. But all around the MLB in general, we've been, obviously the sticky stuff story has kind of dominated, all the news in MLB. I find that unfortunate because, you look at stuff like ESPN and all that stuff. They only talk about baseball when something bad happens, frankly, which, is terrible publicity for the sport. They only talk about it when, something terrible is happening. I'm just like, you couldn't cover one good story, but over here I want to cover at least some of the good going on in baseball. So far this season, we've seen 2 incredible seasons from one Shohei Ohtani and another from Jacob deGrom. In your guys' opinion, which one is more impressive? Because Jacob deGrom right now has an ERA of 0.56. Shohei Ohtani is doing his thing, but deGrom also is batting .400. So I'm trying to think, what would you guys say is probably the better season?
Jacob deGrom is on pace for the greatest pitching season of all time. So as good as Shohei Ohtani is, you can't really. I don't know how you make the argument that anybody in the league is better than Jacob deGrom right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Jacob deGrom as well, just because he's really on a historic pace. I think if more guys were doing what Ohtani was doing, then which nobody is. I think Ohtani is special because nobody else is doing what he's doing, but where Jacob deGrom is just lights out. Like I think he's batted in more runs than he's allowed all season, which is ridiculous. So I don't think that he's easily the best pitcher in baseball right now. I don't think it's even close. and I gotta go DeGrom.
Right now, I'm going to say DeGrom, but I think by the end of the year, it's going to be Ohtani. I think just the pace that DeGrom's on right now is just like, it's just too good. And I mean, he's only made 10 starts so far this year. Like, by the time he hits, he'll probably get around like 25 starts, I would think, by the time the season's over. I'm not denying that he's having like an incredible season, but I just think keeping up a pace of what's his ERA, 0.56. I mean, that's insane. I think that Ohtani, he'll still rake. He'll still probably have an ERA in the threes. And I think at the end of the season, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if both of them win MVPs this year.
They deserve it, frankly. It would be awesome to see. I would probably have to go with DeGrom as well right now because, I mean, he's still also performing at the plate, which is incredible. Obviously, what Ohtani is doing, no one has ever seen what he's done, at least in our lifetime, no one's seen it. Both guys are essentially playing Little League baseball right now. And I think I think we kind of have to appreciate that they're, just doing things that, you wouldn't imagine ever seeing on a Major League Baseball field. They're making the game look just insanely easy to them, which, is kind of awesome to see. And it creates a whole new strategy for baseball. But I don't know. This whole thing has just been, surreal to me just to see.
For sure.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. Who would have thought? I like that. But, I think finally in I think the final topic that we have on the show tonight, obviously as Red Sox fans, we saw Vladdy Jr. tie up the game last night, and then Devers walked it off. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I believe as of right now, is currently leading the league with, I believe it's 22 home runs as of right now. He might have hit 5 more by the time this podcast comes out, but currently I believe it's at 22. Do you guys think that he's going to be the guy that leads it at the end of the season, or do you think someone else can catch up? And if not him, who do you think it could be?
Really hard to argue against Vladdy right now, considering the fact that he just hit a home run in every single game he played in Fenway last series. I don't really know how you go against that guy with an absolute wagon. Like this guy is just nukes baseballs for fun, and it's just like, it's unreal. So can't really think of anybody that I would say is more likely to than him right now.
Yeah, I mean, Vladdy isn't only hitting homers. Like, it could be the Adam Dunn situation where he hits 45 homers, but hits like 100 because all he does is strike out, walk, and hit homers. But, I mean, he's leading the league in average, too. He's hitting 350 something, and he's got like an 1,100 OPS. So it's not even like he's only hitting homers. He's putting the bat on the ball every time he goes up to the plate, and sometimes he just gets a hold of them, and it's not even like he's hitting wall scrapers. I think the one yesterday was well over the monster.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is putting the whole wagon into these balls, and he's putting them into orbit. So I think Vladdy's definitely the safe choice right now. It's hard to see him slowing down, and it seems like anytime he gets a good barrel on the ball, it's going out.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with Vladdy as well. I mean, we've been hearing for forever, when this guy finally gets around to his full potential, like, he's going to be the best pure hitter in all of baseball. And I think we're starting to see that. And he's just, like, the last month, he's just made incredible strides. I mean, for a while there, it was like Acuna and Ohtani right at the top. But I just got to roll with Vladdy. I mean, I could see him being the best power hitter for the next decade, putting 40 to 50 homers up per year. And I think that's what we're going to see from him this year. And that'll be the top of the league.
Yeah, I got one more thing to say. In my preseason predictions, one of my bold takes was that Vladdy would end up top 3 in MVP voting. And I believe it was Steve that laughed at me and told me that I was crazy. And look at me now.
To be fair, Clausen,
Mr. Predictions over there.
If that is the case, and I'd have to check the footage, you've missed a lot more than you've hit, bud. So congratulations.
Let's go to the tape.
Steve,
Steve,
I'm also going to come at you and say you've also missed a lot more than you've hit. We had a whole betting segment based off you.
That was different, though. That was a different thing. That was like,
yeah, no. The thing that you mentioned though about Vladdy Guerrero Jr. that I did find kind of true was that he's not like a Dave Kingman, and that's kind of a reference to my dad because I think that he liked the Mets growing up, and I don't know if you guys know who Dave Kingman is, but he was kind of Adam Dunn before Adam Dunn was a guy. He played back in like the 70s and 80s. He has 442 career home runs, but but his lifetime average was 236. So, that's kind of the guy he was. I think he has one of the longest home runs in MLB history. Hit one literally like, on to almost one of the neighboring houses at Wrigley Field, like outside of Wrigley Field. Like the guy, you want to talk about wagons. Like this guy was a freaking wagon. Like this guy was insane. Like it was insane what he was able to do. But obviously, the average wasn't there. With Vladdy Guerrero Jr., it's, kind of there. And, he's kind of able to, be more of just than just an Adam Dunn type power hitter. He actually can, put up the stats, which is good to see. In terms of thinking of guys who can catch up, it will be interesting to see if Ohtani can get back into it and really, ramp up in terms of the home runs he can get. But, I remember I love talking baseball with my grandfather. And it seems that every summer that we're talking about baseball, he'll always just say like, the season's young, but just wait for guys like Edwin and Encarnacion to heat up. Obviously, he's not really, in the league anymore, but the other guy we'd always mention too would be Nelson Cruz. He currently has 13 home runs. Last year he had 16 through a 60 game pace. He is 13 through 57 right now. So, he's still mashing. He's also still hitting 297. So he's not even like an Adam Dunn type. Like he's still hitting consistently. So honestly, even though he's 40, that he's only hitting. So I'm just like, if he still has that down, I would say watch out for him because, he can get hot at any moment and he can have, multiple home run games just back to back. Like he can just go on a roll.
Yeah, Nelson Cruz has shown that he can do that for the last 5 years. Yeah. And I think that he's also one of those safe bets that he's going to hit 40 homers. It's just a matter of time when he heats up. So I think that if not Vladdy, I think if you're going to take one of those solidified veterans to take the lead, I think Nelson Cruz is the guy to go with.
Yeah, because he's still a ways back right now. He's like technically 9 home runs back, but I'm just like, Vlad Guerrero Jr., whether he gets hurt, obviously God forbidding, but if he just goes in a bit of a slump, Nelson Cruz, when the weather is hot, he gets hot and he just starts mashing balls. So I'm just like, that's a guy that I'm going to be really interested to see because, that's someone that always, like me and my grandfather, my brother, will always talk about like, when's he going to get hot? When's he going to start going? And then he gets going.
Hard to argue against the proven track record of Nelson Cruz.
Steroids aside, seemingly he's clean now, but regardless of it, he's always a guy that's known to mash. But, I think that kind of concludes what we had in terms of the show tonight. If you're not following Down to the Wire yet on social media, what are you guys doing? We are on all social medias. We're available on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, TikTok. But most importantly, the way to reach us is through our Instagram. You can reach us through our which is essentially our main hub. It is our Instagram handle is at down.tothewire. Again, at down.tothewire. Thanks again to the Gone Bridge boys for coming in. They shouted themselves out at the beginning of the episode, but if you guys want to do it again, I'll let you guys do that.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. It was an awesome time. Really good episode. Think that everybody listened. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to keep following our podcast, check us out at Gone Bridge on Twitter and at Gone Bridge Podcast on Instagram. And you can find us on every single podcast platform. Like I said, thanks a lot for having us.
Yeah,
Brian.
Really appreciate it. Go ahead, Clausen.
All you.
No, I'll finish it off. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks again, Brian. It was a blast. Hope to keep in touch. We'll do it again. We'll see how this season goes. Keep talking shop. Keep talking baseball.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to see the Red Sox keep this up, and I hope to have you guys on again to do some updates with it. Gardner, I'll let you finish it off.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, really appreciate it, man. Ton of fun, and yeah, hopefully we can do something again soon, and hopefully the Sox stay hot. As Steve says, Sox are hot, Gone Bridge is hot, listeners are hot, all around. It's a plus.
Sox Nation's hot.
Oh, we're always hot. That's just how we roll. But from down to the But I think it's time to say that we are now down to the wire, which means that we're going to go through everything we talked about in this episode. Obviously, we introduced these guys, had them talk about everything they were going through, starting off a podcast, doing all that stuff. Then we talked, all this. Then we just talked, big stories surrounding the Red Sox and everything like that. Like Chris Sale coming back, reviewing the Benintendi trade kind of all in advance. We talked about baseball referencing, including stats from the Negro leagues, as well as MLB cracking down on illegal substances. But I think it's time to say that, thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Andrew Gardner.
I'm Steve Brady.
I'm Alex Clausen.
And we will see you guys next time. Take care.